Now let's bring in CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez. Good to see you, Camilo. Can you talk to us about how the roles are shifting here?
Good morning, Muga. We are seeing firsthand what could be the start of a potentially major shift in how the Trump administration is carrying out the president's mass deportation agenda. Of course, Gregory Bovino, that notorious Border Patrol commander who has led controversial immigration operations in major cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and most recently Minneapolis, is effectively being demoted and sent back to his regular job as the lead chief patrol agent in the El Centro sector along the California-Mexico border. Tom Homan, the White House border czar, who is seen as more moderate on immigration issues, is now going to be leading ICE operations in Minneapolis. And so there's certainly a change in tone. Of course, Bovino faced a lot of criticism and backlash, Mugo, after he suggested without evidence that Alex Pretti was trying to massacre federal agents when he was fatally shot by a Border Patrol agent over the weekend.
Yeah.
And we also know that this could be the start of a major policy change as well, not just a shift in tone. Border Patrol operations led by Bovino, Mugo, have been more indiscriminate in nature than ICE operations. For example, Border Patrol agents have been seen arresting people on a random ad hoc basis at Home Depot parking lots and other public locations, and also stopping people on the streets of major US cities, including Minneapolis, to ask them for their papers and their citizenship status. ICE operations, while they have become more aggressive under this administration, are still primarily targeted at individuals who are in the country illegally, but also have criminal records. So we're starting to see again the makings of what could be a major pivot by the administration, but only time will tell.
Now, of course, there's been two killings we all know that's in Minneapolis so far, Rena Good and Alex Peretta. Both of them, some people are saying that they were completely innocent. Some people are saying they aren't. With the Rena Good, there's an argument saying that she was driving towards and tried to run over the ICE officer. And then for Alex Pereira, the government or some of the government are saying he still had a gun, which in some of the videos, it looked clear to me that they ended up taking away the gun. But I don't know exactly what was happening because we ain't got any body cam footage or anything like that. We just got to wait for more investigation to come out. But let's keep going into this.
Yeah, exactly. Only time will tell. We'll see what comes next. Camilo, we're also expecting the administration to pull back some of the Border Patrol agents in Minnesota. But do we have any information about just how many would leave the state?
So we don't know right now, Mugo, how many Border Patrol agents will be leaving alongside Bovino this week. What we do know is that there are currently about 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol agents in the Minneapolis region. That is the largest deployment in the history of the Department of Homeland Security. 2,000 of those agents are ICE agents at Homeland Security investigations and also ICE's deportation branch. So the bulk of the force, we are told, is still going to be there in Minneapolis because, again, 2/3 of the people there at the federal level are at ICE. About 1,000 of the people deployed there by the federal government have been Border Patrol agents and other officers at Customs and Border Protection. But again, it is still a significant concession by the administration to withdraw some of the forces there, especially Bovino, who again has been the public face of the administration's crackdown in not just Minneapolis, but Chicago, Los Angeles, Charlotte, and also New Orleans.
Yeah. Camilo.
So it's a crazy times that we live in, crazy times but it looks like the main dude who was leading the ICE in that area is going to basically get demoted, and they're going to send Tom Homan in, the one who's over everything. But there's one thing. Remember, all this started, really kicked up from was the death of Alex Pereira, which he was actually. I didn't notice this. There's a video. He was actually assaulted before by ICE agents. Looks like he was basically protesting again, but this was prior to it. I think a week or two prior. So let's go over into that.
Sources tell CNN that Alex Pretti, the man who was fatally shot in Minneapolis last week, had an encounter with federal agents a week prior. Now, according to sources, they said that that incident, Pretti had stopped his car when he saw ICE agents chasing what he described as a family. They say that he began shouting and blowing his whistle. Now, he also had told these sources that he was tackled to the ground by 5 agents, one of whom leaned on his back, and that encounter left him with a broken rib. One source saying that that day he, quote, thought he was going to die. Now, according to records reviewed by CNN, Pretti was given medication consistent with treating a broken rib. Now, sources also tell CNN that Alex Pretti appeared to be known by federal law enforcement prior to Saturday's incident, though it's unclear whether the officers who tackled him knew who he was. But all of this part of an effort by federal immigration officers to collect personal information on protesters and agitators as the Department of Homeland Security warns of increasing threats to law enforcement conducting operations.
Go back and look at the video yourself. Tell me what your thoughts are. I only saw what it looked like, the gun being taken away from him that they pulled from his back. It was tucked in his back waistband. But some are saying he might have still had another gun. You got to go make your own inferences or conclusions on what you see. And then when the investigation comes out, you can choose to believe it or not. But let's get over into this next video where we learn more about Tom Homan coming in.
Commander-at-Large Greg Bovino is out of Minnesota, and Secretary Kristi Noem is facing calls of impeachment, both of whom claimed Pretti was threatening federal agents with his gun, something the video of the shooting directly contradicts. President Trump has now tapped his border czar, Tom Homan, to run the deportation operation in Minnesota. Homan, a 40-year veteran of DHS operations, previously headed deportations under President Obama, and typically employs a more methodical approach to deportations, much different from the tactics employed by Greg Bovino, which have been derided by many and the subject of heavy criticism. News Nation's Allie Bradley has more live on the ground in Minnesota. Allie, good afternoon.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, Nick. So we just got word that Tom Homan is in town officially, and he just met with Governor Tim Walz. So what his office is saying, what the governor's office here is saying, is that they reiterated the priorities for Minnesota, saying impartial investigations into the Minneapolis shooting involving federal agents, a swift, significant reduction in number of federal forces in Minnesota, and an end to the campaign of retribution against Minnesota. And then we also heard from Chief Gregory Bovino, who told me the agents of Operation At Large were a true honor to serve with, saying, now, folks, those agents really made a difference, unprecedented. And we know that Chief Gregory Bovino has been relieved of command. He has been relieved from his role as Commander at Large, and he is officially out of Minnesota now, going back to the El Centro sector where he was chief, that according to our sources. Now, several Border Patrol agents are also leaving Minnesota, but some who were getting ready to leave were actually told to stay. They told me they were packing up and going home, but that was paused. They're now staying here, and that's something Mayor Fry says he's going to continue to push against following his conversation with President Trump. Now, we do expect Mayor Fry to also meet with border czar Tom Homan as well on that front. Now, when it comes to the deadly shooting, obviously, we're likely going to hear more coming out on that investigation. Tom Homan is here on the ground. He's going to be focusing, though, on immigration enforcement, but we'll also be digging into the fraud investigation into the state. Of course, that's the reason why they were here in the first place. We want to give you a little bit more background. I know Nick kind of broke down who Tom Homan is, but let's kind of give you some more information. He's a former New York police officer and Border Patrol agent. He was tapped by the Obama administration in 2013 to lead ICE's deportation efforts. And during his tenure, ICE carried out record numbers of formal deportations. Obama later awarded Homan the Presidential Rank Award, the highest honor for career civil servants. He also served as President Trump's acting ICE director during his first term. Now, when it comes to that deadly shooting, the White House says DHS is leading the investigation through Homeland Security investigations. DHS has Alex Pretti's phone and the officer's gun. The FBI is going to be investigating Pretti's gun, but that's the extent of their involvement at the moment. Now, Customs and Border Protection is conducting its own internal investigation. Of course, that's the agency that directly oversees Border Patrol, the agency that was involved in the shooting death of Alex Pretti. Now, DHS officials also say some federal agents were actually wearing body cameras, and there is camera footage from multiple angles of Saturday's incident. Investigators are currently reviewing that footage, and this all comes as a chief federal judge in Minnesota is saying that the Trump administration has not complied with court orders requiring hearings for detained immigrants. So they're actually subpoenaing the acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, to be before a judge on Friday. So a lot of moving parts here, Nick, that we're trying to keep our eyes on. And of course, if anything breaks, we'll be the first to report it here.
Allie, one more moving part I want to ask you about, though, because we know that President Trump spoke with both Governor Walz and Mayor Frey. Is the Department of Homeland Security still moving forward with this main mission?
Yeah, so ICE is going to remain here, and the agency is standing strong behind its operation in the Twin Cities, and the Department of Homeland Security took to X to continue posting what it calls the, quote, worst of the worst in Minneapolis. They shared photos and descriptions of suspects who they have labeled as violent offenders, which include sex predators, those driving under the influence, and drug dealing charges as well. ICE says more than 3,400 criminal illegal immigrants have been arrested under Operation Metro Surge. That began at the end of November. And of course, we're told that these operations are going to continue to be going on despite Gregory Bovino's departure here, Nick.
We'll see if the
So at the end of the day, they're still going to be out there, still going to be going after illegal immigrants to get them deported. But a lot of things are happening in Minneapolis. Let's go over into this next video where they talk about a judge is calling for a meeting.
A judge in Minnesota is ordering the acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement to appear in court by Friday. The chief federal judge in Minnesota wants Todd Lyons to explain why he should not be held in contempt after the Trump administration failed to comply with orders to hold hearings for detained immigrants. Meanwhile, in a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi obtained by CBS News, top Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee have asked Justice Department officials to hand over records involving the investigation into Alex Pretti's death. The panel wants the records by this coming Monday, February 2nd. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland has more from Washington.
As the day progresses here in Washington, you are seeing a shakeup in Minneapolis for the Trump administration. They are deploying Tom Homan, their so-called border czar, from Washington to be on the ground in Minneapolis amid the crisis, if not controversy. They have moved out the high-profile border agent leader, Greg Bovino. He's no longer on the ground. And CBS News has learned Kristi Noem was at the White House Monday, the director, the secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, answering questions, and will have a focus shift to the southern border from these issues of the interior immigration enforcement, the deployment of agents in cities like Minneapolis. These changes come amid this spiraling controversy over the second deadly shooting by a federal agent of a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. This has also triggered a series of new congressional investigations. CBS News has learned among them Judiciary Committee Democrats in the U.S. House have asked the Department of Justice to hand over records by Monday into why or why not they have investigations going into the shooting of Renee Good and the shooting of Alex Pretti and what they plan to do about it next.
It's a wild situation that's happening over in Minneapolis. But let me know your thoughts, y'all. That is the updates, what we've seen so far with the whole ICE and Tom Homan coming. What do you think about it? What do you think? Go back, look at the videos, always do your own research and tell me what your thoughts are. Like always, let me know if you disagree with anything I said.